Some of the most popular video games in the world are shooters, whether they be first or third person, original game concepts, or those based on pre-established franchises. Since the days of Wolfenstein 3D, shooting games have dominated the gaming industry with both their single-player campaigns and PvP multiplayer to become some of the highest-selling gaming products of all time. While new militaristic shooters are released annually, not many shooting games these days offer much replay value unless players are invested in esports or feature complex narratives of their own. However, there are still a wide variety of shooting games released over the decades that offer high replay value thanks to their game modes, alternate methods to finish campaigns, and near infinite ways to play together with friends locally and online. Respawn Entertainment's Titanfall 2 is one of the most underrated FPS games released in the past decade, not just for how it perfectly melded mech combat with conventional military FPS gameplay, but for its incredible single-player campaign. Unlike the original Titanfall, which featured no campaign, Titanfall 2's campaign is an incredible journey between a rookie pilot Jock Cooper and Titan BT-7274 as they bond together and become an elite unit while struggling to survive on the alien planet Typhon. I never get tired of replaying Titanfall 2, not just for Jock and BT's story, which remains sadly unresolved, but for the amazingly smooth gameplay Titanfall is known for, with epic wall runs and epic transitions into boarding and piloting massive Titans to fight other Titans. There's still no game out there these days quite like Titanfall 2, but the game still offers a ton of replay value with its story, gameplay, and near-limitless ways players can customize their loadouts, both for their Titans and pilots. id Software's Doom series will always be known as one of the greatest FPS game franchises of all time, thanks to how it pioneered the gaming genre. But for a time in the 2000s and 2010s, it seemed like the series was dead until the Doomslayer made his epic return in 2016's Doom. A reboot of the Doom series following 2004's Doom 3, 2016's Doom perfectly elevated the FPS's signature gory and action gameplay for modern gameplay standards to create what's arguably the greatest Doom title ever made. This is due to many factors, such as Mick Gordon's fantastic metal soundtrack, the introduction of awesome glory kills, truly horrifying demon enemy designs, and smooth yet frenetic gameplay that allowed the Doomslayer to dispatch demons on the fly while using a whole arsenal of destructive weapons. While 2016's Doom may be rather short or lacking in variety compared to other games on this list, all of the game's features make it an absolute blast to replay through over and over again, especially to see how fast players can beat the game even on its ultra nightmare difficulty. Gearbox Software's Borderlands franchise is one of the most prolific to rise from the days of the 7th console generation, having been developed into several sequels, prequels, spin-offs, and a rather disappointing film. But I'd argue that the best entry to replay in the franchise is still Borderlands 2. An FPS action RPG, Borderlands 2 practically improves upon everything Borderlands 1 established, with 6 brand new Vault Hunters to play as, each with their own unique abilities, a wide variety of crazed enemies, and a ton more guns to loot and use. Borderlands 2 is arguably Borderlands at its most balanced, as the combat and exploration are still a ton of fun, and the comedy is still hilarious without feeling forced or cringeworthy. What makes Borderlands 2 have high replay value, aside from its roster of Vault Hunters and endless number of guns, is the fun gamers can have playing through the game in 2-player split screen or 4-player online co-op. Ubisoft's Far Cry 3 is without a doubt the most popular and best Far Cry game of all time, justifiably so, as the FPS game features an absolutely enthralling campaign and DLC. Far Cry 3's campaign has players embody the young tourist Jason Brody, as he and his friends are captured by pirates on the East Asia Rook Islands, forcing Brody to become as violent and bloodthirsty as the pirates to rescue his friends.
The gameplay of Far Cry 3 is a ton of fun, with smooth FPS and bow and arrow gameplay, alongside exploratory hunting mechanics both on land and sea. Not to mention the neon 1980s action film-inspired extravaganza that can be seen in the Blood Dragon DLC. The story of Far Cry is arguably the franchise's best, and it features multiple endings that set the game up for multiple intriguing playthroughs to see how the Rook Islands can change not just Brody, but the players themselves.
Bungie and 343 Industries' Halo franchise is one of the best shooter game series ever made, being largely responsible for the Xbox brand's success. But even after all these years, Halo 3 is still the best game to replay over and over again. Most Halo games are great in their own unique ways, but Halo 3 just has a perfect balance of engaging gameplay, an amazing campaign, and a phenomenal multiplayer system that are all still incredibly fun to play 18 years later. At least once a year, I go back and play Halo 3's campaign solo and with friends, and no matter how many times I finish the fight, playing as Master Chief, Arbiter, Uze Taham, and Thosaram at the end of the Human Covenant War is still an absolute blast, especially when playing in 4-player co-op. Aside from the campaign, Halo 3's multiplayer is still great to play to this very day, and I always enjoy driving the Elephant on Sandtrap and CTF, slaying foes with Banshees on Valhalla, and smashing enemies with the Gravity Hammer on Guardian. Treyarch's initial 2 Call of Duty Black Ops games are some of the greatest Call of Duty titles ever released, thanks to their enigmatic campaigns starring CIA operatives Alex Mason and Frank Woods, incredible zombies maps, and addictive yet fair multiplayer. For a time, the Black Ops series of COD games appeared to have an identity crisis, with Call of Duty Black Ops 3 taking place far in the future with virtually no connection to the previous games, and Call of Duty Black Ops 4 not featuring a campaign at all. However, after 2 years, Treyarch brought back Black Ops properly with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which not only brought back a campaign starring Mason and Woods, but also introduced dialogue options and brought back Call of Duty Black Ops 2's branching choices and multiple endings. This return to basics, while expanding upon features introduced before, makes Cold War easily the most replayable COD title released in the past decade, not to mention the espionage and covert-focused story starring Bell and immediate fan favorite Russell Adler. Valve was famous for developing some of the greatest and most innovative video games of all time back in the 2000s and 2010s, such as Half-Life 2, Portal, and Team Fortress 2. But I'd argue that their most replayable FPS title has got to be Left 4 Dead 2. Left 4 Dead 2 and its 2008 predecessor practically defined modern zombie games with the introduction of lethal special infected that numerous other games would go on to copy and build upon. But the ways these special infected impact playthroughs help make Left 4 Dead 2 highly replayable. For example, one run on Dark Carnival could have a smoker and a hunter attack players and split the team up early on in the campaign, while another run on Dark Carnival could have a jockey pull a player into the pool of acid of a spitter, forcing players to watch one of their teammates die slowly. Left 4 Dead 2 is simply pure co-op zombie madness, with every playthrough being different than the last, thanks to the random zombie spawns, but also due to how playing with other people changes the dynamics and strategies to survive together, or leave friends behind for dead. The Xbox 360 was home to many incredible FPS titles during the early days of the 7th console generation, such as the aforementioned Halo 3. But one FPS game that trumps Halo 3 in its narrative quality and replayability is 2007's BioShock. A spiritual successor to System Shock 2, BioShock is set in the early 1960s as a man named Jack mysteriously ditches in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, only to find an underwater metropolis called Rapture and discover its crumbling structures and monstrous inhabitants. The original BioShock may not feature multiplayer at all, but its single-player campaign is more than enough to have players coming back for more again and again, if not for the alluring atmosphere of Rapture itself, not to mention its shocking story, full of iconic twists and turns, as well as alternate endings. Every time gamers play through BioShock, there's always something new to discover about Rapture and its fall from grace, as it's simply one of the greatest settings for a video game of all time. The original Xbox was home to numerous great titles, from the console-exclusive Halo 2 to movie tie-in games like Shrek 2. But for me, the most replayable game of that era has got to be Pandemic Studios' Star Wars Battlefront 2. Not to be confused with DICE's Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2017, Pandemic's Battlefront 2 was the sequel to 2004's Star Wars Battlefront, and one of the last great Star Wars games to launch in 2005 to coincide with the release of Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. Pandemic's Battlefront 2 is literally one of the greatest first and third-person shooter games ever released, as not only can players embody troops from every episode of the original Star Wars film saga, but they can also play as iconic heroes and villains and pilot iconic vehicles both on land and in space. I've personally spent hundreds of hours playing Battlefront 2's tragic campaign following a clone trooper from the beginning of the Clone Wars through Order 66 and up to the Battle of Hoth, battling friends in instant action and just having a wacky blast in Mos Eisley's chaotic hero assault mode.
There's no better first and third person shooting game to play over and over again than Obsidian Entertainment's Fallout New Vegas. In action RPG, New Vegas has players live through the shoes of the courier as they're sent out into the Mojave wasteland of the late 23rd century to seek revenge for being left for dead and robbed, only to end up at the center of a massive conflict between the New California Republic, Caesar's Legion, and the mysterious Mr. House. Players can immediately play through New Vegas's main questline, but the Mojave Wasteland is so vast with intriguing side quests, characters, minor factions, and locations that players can spend days exploring every inch of the desert without ever venturing into the city of New Vegas itself. With New Vegas being full of many factions, there are endless ways gamers can replay the game, as the courier can support the Powder Gangers in one run and defend the town of Good Springs in another, to name just a couple of ways the courier can impact the Mojave.